This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi and continuing coverage of the case against Bryan Kohberger.
As the trial of Bryan Kohberger barrels towards an August start, the courtroom saw some major movement last week. He witnessed subpoenas, strategic motions denied, and the defense's roadmap narrowing by the day. Among the biggest developments, several individuals from Kohberger's past in Pennsylvania have now been identified as potential trial witnesses, raising new questions about what role his early life will play in the defense's case. At the same time, the judge shut down two major defense moves, blocking the attempt to introduce a third-party culprit theory and denying the request to delay the trial once again. To help us break down what these witnesses could bring to the table, why the court rejected these latest motions, and what all of this tells us about where the trial is headed, Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent with her experience investigating this sort of stuff and people like this, courtrooms, all of it. Jennifer, she helps us cut through the noise and get to the real implications behind these headlines. So let's jump into this, Jennifer. Let's break down the Pennsylvania witnesses. Who are these Pennsylvania witnesses, and why is the defense calling them to the aid of Bryan Kohberger? And from the understanding, a lot of them don't want to have anything to do with it. What's your thoughts thus far?
Well, the defense, as you mentioned in your intro, is really narrowing. They were hoping to get the third-party culprit defense on the table, naming multiple other individuals as being responsible for these tragic murders. But when Judge slammed that door shut, they had to take a different route. And that route is going to certainly be calling other witnesses from his early years. And the purpose of that really is to paint a picture of this individual who was troubled, and I think really trying to lay out issues that he had in his life and in his world to really try to garner sympathy. I think that's the main purpose of most of these witnesses.
Are they there for more of the sentencing area of this than the actual trial itself in terms of trying to save his life? Because I can't imagine anyone saying, well, he was a troubled kid, and that, somehow the jury's going to be like, well, that justifies killing 4 college kids. He had trouble. Sure. Obviously, they're trying to paint him as a human being. Is that more, you think, the goal here?
Yeah, absolutely. They want to paint early on what kind of person he was in their own light. And as you said, some of these witnesses are certainly not going to be happy about testifying, but they're going to be called to the stand most likely because the defense just doesn't have another option. They are trying to keep, I think, Bryan Kohberger from receiving the death penalty if he is indeed convicted.
Yeah, it feels like that is obviously that's the ultimate goal, be to try and get him free, which doesn't seem to be like what they're shooting for anymore. It seems far more to just keep him in the cage. Former boxing coach Jesse Harris, character witness or a pattern disruptor. He's going to be called, or he is being called. Harris ran the gym where Kohberger trained. He was subpoenaed and will potentially testify about Kohberger's behavior and personality during his youth, specifically that time between him being the younger Kohberger, where he was a bit overweight, being picked on. We've all heard that story. Then he seemed to get into boxing, lost a lot of the weight, and from what we heard, personality changed quite a bit. What do you think we're going to garner from the boxing coach if he does take the stand?
Well, that was such an interesting part of his background that I think could sort of blow up on the defense, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's going to paint Kohberger as a very motivated individual, somebody who lost around 110 pounds, somebody who wanted to be in shape, who wanted to be respected in terms of his physical capabilities. And I think if he's truly called, honestly, I think this helps the prosecution because the prosecution is going to show how fit he was. And of course, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, he murdered 4 people in this small period of time. You'd have to be physically fit. Well, guess what? Bryan Kohberger was physically fit.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. I thought, well, what is the advantage here going to be of this? And they got to play it really careful with anybody that they call back from his past because, anybody from his past that we've heard publicly speak about him in the last 3 years I've yet to hear one that's like, great guy, super dude, always nice, always there, always. It's like everything's like kind of odd, kind of weird, had a temper, had a lot of anger issues, had a lot of, issues with interacting with other human beings. I don't know what the advantage is here of the boxing coach, because he's going to do exactly what you just said. He got in shape. He got motivated to be in shape. And I mean, we're talking about boxing. It's kind of a violent sport. It is boxing. It's not like he got into track. It was his track coach or something. It shows, it's an aggressive type thing. I'm concerned that that's going to. I'm not pro Kohberger, but I would, if I were the defense, I'd be concerned that would backfire. I would also be concerned about any questions about his personality. And what this man may have witnessed in Kohberger over those years, considering a lot of people said he changed quite dramatically personality-wise at that time.
Right. It's a tightrope. I think it's a dangerous tightrope. I'm sure they're going to try to show, listen, he was picked on, he was bullied, and look at how he pulled himself up by his bootstraps and, meant to do very good in this arena of letting his aggression out in a controlled environment, something like that. But I think it's very sticky. And, remember that it's alleged that Kaylee Gonzalez was actually punched. So I think that's also going to be interesting because now you have somebody, a kickboxer, but somebody who's trained to fight. And that comes in. It's dangerous territory for the defense.
It's almost like they're trying to paint a story of redemption or something in his early youth. A guy who got his stuff together, who really, saw, okay, I'm not gonna be the fat kid in the basement that's being made fun of. I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna go and do this. But what ended up seeming to happen, I don't know, it was redemption, but more of like a psychological regression, because from everything we've heard, sounds like Kohberger kind of wanted to, square up all the loose angles of everybody who made fun of him in the earlier years. When he finally kind of got a little confidence and a little bit more in shape, it wasn't a, hey, let me join the group and let me, be one of you guys now and let's have fun and enjoy life. It's more like, let me go settle all the scores from the past.
Yeah, I agree. This is a case that, in my view, I've always stated it, if he indeed do this, it's a state of retribution. It's a state of revenge. That was his mindset. And he built the tools to do that. By calling some of the people from his past, we're going to see how really possibly this monster was created.
High school advisor Ann Farham, voluntary testimony and strategic optics are what's at play here. Farham has already agreed to testify. This is one who said, okay, I'll do it, avoiding a court battle. Her appearance may lend an image of credibility and care, someone stepping forward uncoerced. What do you think we're going to hear from the high school counselor? She would be one who would have known him pretty well at that point in time when a lot of these things were going on in his life and a lot of trouble was being talked about. And a lot of this is the area where he would have been talking about visual snow and such in the online postings that we've seen.
Right. Tony, this is the problem. This is how much what I would say the defense is really reaching. Going back to a high school counselor.
I know. The guy's 30 now.
Yeah, it's really, really a far reach to try to make this person your character witness. I would believe that they have interviewed her with their investigators and that perhaps she has said something that is sort of paints him in a light of, as you said, somebody who was just struggling, kind of the kid that's just always picked on, and trying to show some sort of sympathy or some light of sympathy for him. Again, I just don't think it's going to hit with the jurors because it's so long ago. And it doesn't matter when you consider the crime that he did. You can't have the excuse of, well, I was picked on when I was in 9th grade. That's really not going to fly. I
can't imagine. Just the idea of being 30 and whatever crime it is you committed, that your best witness is your high school counselor. It's like, who was like almost 10 years prior to the crime even taking place, even further now, that this is the best you got? This is really the only person that's going to be able to stand up for you and say, he was a very nice boy. It's just, what is that? Yeah, I mean, I guess it really is coming down to trying to see, okay, maybe he wasn't always evil, or maybe there was a side to him that existed prior. I mean, I'm wondering if they're trying to paint the side of him prior to his transformation, if you will, the softer side, the lighter side, the side that got picked on, the side that may have been a little bit more compassionate. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they're trying to show sort of that he wasn't always like this. And again, I see it as gaining sympathy, or at least some sort of empathy for this person, so that when it comes to sentencing time, they can spare him. That's what I see that the defense is trying to do.
The jail guard, he is going to be a witness. He was the guard post-arrest out there in Pennsylvania. He's a witness who was a corrections officer, supervised Kohberger at that point in time. Defense may want to show that Kohberger was calm, cooperative, and not displaying erratic behavior post-arrest. But was he, though? I mean, this is someone who, if we remember back at that point in time, and I'm curious to get your memory of what was going on at that point in time, one of the first things I think we heard about was his bizarre demands for ways of cooking his food in prison, of don't use pans that have touched meat, as if he's at the Four Seasons. I couldn't even imagine asking that at the Four Seasons, but he's asking it in jail. What do you think that's gonna, with all of this, let's start with the jail. We'll talk about the cooking methods later, but the jail, the guard, what do you think the jail guard is going to bring to this in terms of helping or maybe even hurting Kohberger?
Well, this is another tightrope. I mean, was one thing that he observed going to be positive for Kohberger, such as you mentioned, that he was calm, that, remember, there were allegations, in fact, it's documented, that he said, was anyone else arrested? Mm-hmm. We know about that early on. Did he say further little tidbits like that this guard overheard, or that he said straight to the guard? So I think they're going to want to just try to cloud up what might have happened, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is something that Bundy allegedly did too, where they dangle out these possible carrots that somebody else was involved, mm-hmm. When really it's just strategic and smart to say things like that, because it can be distracting away from his own guilt. So I'll be interested to see, but I'll also think that this guard will also probably have information that might not be so positive, just from my past knowing what guards see, mm-hmm. and what they take note of. I mean, they get to see these guys 24/7 almost, at least when they're on shift, mm-hmm. And they're supposed to be watching them and monitoring them. And if 24/7 every single minute by somebody, it'll be interesting to see if there were mistakes made by Kohberger that could be positive for.
How often do we see guards called in cases like this? It's hard to say like this because there's not a lot that are like this. But how often do we see a guard like this called? And is it kind of like a desperate move that this is the person you're going to be calling as the defense? Or is this, I don't know, it seems like this is a weird one compared to witnesses to the crime, about the crime, the guard itself. Like how unorthodox is this, or is it not?
Well, when you look back, let's take a case that we both know well, is the mm-hmm. Delphi case.
Yeah.
You may recall that there were issues in terms of the guards actually overhearing the conversations with the defense attorney, mm-hmm. and Richard Allen.
Yeah.
And that really became a huge issue, what was recorded, what wasn't, what they might have heard, what could have been passed on. And, that judge in that particular case kind of shut everything down. Mm-hmm. But in this case, Judge Hippler is fine with, I think, allowing some of the information in And obviously we see that because he's on that witness list. I'm going to be interested to see, though, if he's actually called or if this, again, is just somebody on the list.
Yeah. So a lot of people that are on the list. Some are, contesting this, saying, we do not want to go and have to testify. A lot of them are trying to compel them to testify. If they get the subpoenas and they contest the subpoenas, if forced to testify, unwilling witnesses, they can be hostile sometimes, unhelpful on the stand, even if they're being brought in to try and stand up for this guy, especially if they think he's guilty. If they're like, yeah, I knew him in high school, but he was, I don't know him now, and I could see him being the one who did this. This is kind of a big bet that it feels Ann Taylor is placing on these people to show up and provide anything that's really going to be of help.
Well, Tony, it's a slippery slope. And once you put somebody up on the stand like that, though, they can come off sometimes, as you mentioned, hostile. They can come off as not being truthful. We saw that recently in the Karen Reed trial, where certain witnesses were called that did not want to be there. And they made just a horrible impression of themselves because they didn't want to be there and they came off hostile. So again, it's a slippery slope for Ann Taylor to be going after this, but I see it as her overall pattern of kind of, putting up what might and might not work. This is a true throw the spaghetti on the refrigerator and see if it sticks situation, and that's why I think she has this tremendously long and unusual witness list.
Let's talk about the motions that have been denied. The third-party culprit motion, Judge Hippler said, nope, we're not doing that. He denied it, and the sealed motion to present alternate suspects, citing lack of direct evidence and pure speculation. We went through that document the other day. And I guess I want to know what the hell do you think Ann Taylor was thinking with submitting that, other than let's see if this spaghetti sticks too? Because obviously none of the people on that list had anything to do with this, and nor would it ever make it into the courtroom, considering they've all been cleared by the FBI. And what do you think she was doing with that? Was that just to create some reasonable doubt in the potential jury pool that exists out there in the ether right now, so that when they do get that pool, maybe they'll remember there was that alternate suspect list, but they don't understand fully what that matters or what that means, and that it really didn't mean anything. What's your take on it?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think, first of all, what does she have to lose?
Yeah.
Try to throw this out there, create these long motion documents that this judge has to go through, decipher, put the law to it. The prosecution has to answer, and that they can hope somehow, is not denied. This was an easy one, though, for Judge Hippler, and specifically, when she tried to cite the DNA, which the DNA wasn't even on scene. So it's just really, in a sense, I think, a bit mind-boggling to those of us who know this case inside and out, that she would attempt this. But by the same token, she has nothing to lose. So what else is she going to do? She's got to throw something out there, kind of like the alibi of he was driving around in the middle of the night, which puts him exactly doing what the cell tower information says he was doing, which was driving around. To me, that was a win for the prosecution when she said that. I think the other thing, Tony, is we have seen the play, and even though a lot of it was redacted of this motion, how much social media can play into these cases. And certainly, I think she wants to get a lot of her contentions, all be them, far-fetched, out there in the social media venue, and certainly feed the pro-burgers, because there is a group that is definitely pro-release of Bryan Kohberger.
There is, and I do not understand one iota of it. They come to our YouTube channel and they don't really bring anything. They just like to say, he's innocent. Okay, and why is that? And then they like to say, you don't know anything. Okay, well, what do you have? You don't know anything. Okay, well, I do know some things, but what do you know? Why are you backing this up? You hate Bryan Kohberger. Okay, that's how the conversations go. I don't understand where any of them are coming from. I mean, you, I'm sure, have seen them out there. They're nowhere near the level of Karen Reed, FKR folks, but they're a little group that's budding. It's like they were born recently and they're toddlers right now and they're learning how to use their keyboards. Where are they coming from? Where do you glean anything off of these people as to where they're coming from, as to why they think Kohberger is innocent, or they just want to join a club that nobody else is a part of yet?
Well, I saw the group starting to form actually very, very early on. It was just so few in number, but it's getting traction, I think, because some of the people from the other trials that are now over, they're kind of going over there and jumping on the bandwagon, right?
Yeah,
why
they're lost.
is the interesting thought?
Yeah.
Why in the world everybody wants to see Bryan Kohberger's rights protected? There is no better advocate probably out there than Ann Taylor herself. She has delayed this trial. She has tried every avenue to try to get justice for her client, which she should be doing. So it's not like he's not well represented. And it's not just her. He also has a slew of lawyers that have worked or are working on his case. There has been seemingly no limitation of budget. I mean, the amount of money being spent, the raises, the personnel, the court system has allowed, in other words, there's no expense spared from making sure Bryan Kohberger receives a fair trial. So, Tony, to your point, I think a lot of it is just noise, and people try to make a name for themselves. And that's what they're doing. That's how I see it.
Why do you think it is that they have such a budget for this trial? Granted, it's very, very high profile, but at the same point, it's another trial. It's another case. It's another murder case. Granted, it obviously involves many people, but maybe this is more of a legal question, but where do they determine the budgets for what case? Where one gets, okay, you get your attorney from the state, good luck. He's getting everything, for free from the state. It's not like he has millions of dollars here to spend on these attorneys or any of the legal defense. The taxpayers are paying to defend Bryan Kohberger. Why this, carte blanche to the checkbook?
Tony, I've brought this up before because I will say in our system, it is so unfair. You can go to some states and the expert witness is going to get paid $50 an hour. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
Other states, it's $500, $600, $700, $800. It just depends on the judge and his allotment. So it's really insane. The budgets that are decided solely by the judges. And remember, a lot of this budget was decided well before Judge Hippler was involved. And so for that reason, I think the horse done left the barn, and a lot of those constraints just weren't made. So it was carte blanche. But in a way, to me, I'm happy from the standpoint of for this case not to be appealed, for his Sixth Amendment rights to be protected, because this is a scary individual.
Yeah. If
for some reason he were exonerated, it's the thought of him being let out. I just, I'll mimic what my good friend Dr. Picado said. It could be a very scary situation if he were acquitted.
Yeah, I can agree. Obviously, the third party theory is off the table now. The defense is going to have to pretty much attack the prosecution's case directly. Do you think they will? Do you think we're going to see a real solid attack of the prosecution's case, considering I don't know that they have a whole lot to do attack it with? Granted, we have these witnesses here that they're trying to compel to testify, but at the end of the day, you got a high school counselor, a boxing coach, and whoever else they can, finagle to show up over there. I mean, is that a defense you even want to raise, or do you think this may be one where it kind of goes the way of Diddy or Daybell or anything, where when it comes time to them for them to present their witnesses, they may just go, "We're done, we're good, we're just going to rest on everything we argued on cross"?
Oh, they've got rabbits up their sleeve. First of all, they're going to try to discredit all that cellular telephone information. And they have expert witness that they have acquired. And I think he will be, do the best that he can to try to dissuade the jury that the prosecution's information regarding all the cellular data is accurate. I don't think at the end of the day he'll be successful. He's been out of the business for a long time, certainly qualified and certainly an expert. But you're going to have the best of the best with the FBI's CART team on the stand, and I think they're going to be pretty unshakable. I think they're also going to go after the car data. Recall that in the probable cause affidavit, it was originally thought to be 2011 to 2013 vehicle Hyundai Elantra. But of course, Kohberger has 2015. And so that expert, which was an FBI expert, had to go back and revisit why the configuration of the car he limited only to 2013 and that he had to incorporate up to a 2015. So they're going to go after that. They're certainly going to really go hard after these witnesses. I mean, they're going to try to cut up Dylan Mortensen's testimony and try to show that she was drunk, that it wasn't really a big deal what she saw, that she was texting. They're going to really try to paint her in the worst light possible. We have the DoorDash individual who now, has an issue. It was from a year prior. Because you get a DUI a year prior, in my view, doesn't mean that you can't testify you saw somebody at a murder scene.
Sure.
Totally unrelated. There's no information she was drinking under the influence during that instance in time. So the bottom line is I see them vigorously going after each of these witnesses.
And those are two big ones, Dylan Mortensen out there. Obviously, there are still people out there who are like, well, why didn't she call the police? And if you look at it, if you spend some time and don't just live in the ether of YouTube and go and understand where this all happened and how this all happened, it makes sense. You can, at least to a logical person, I think, okay, this makes sense. It wasn't, was it what I would have done at that age in time? No, probably not. But I didn't grow up at this point in life either, nor did I have social media and the ways that these kids communicate today either. So it's a very different ecosystem. And I think once you kind of understand that, it makes a bit more sense. But yeah, they're going to end up going after the roommates. At the end of the day, how strong is the testimony of the roommates saying that they saw the man with the bushy eyebrows? Obviously, it's one person that does put him there, but we have DNA, we have the sheath, we have the shopping list, we have so many other things too. How powerful do you think it will be to have Dylan testify? And it's going to be another tightrope when she does get to cross on the roommates, not to come across as too harsh or anywhere near mean towards someone who also is a victim of this, who went through such a trauma the night that Kohberger allegedly went into that house.
Well, Tony, the good thing is I think there's a lot of corroborative information now. We have the 911 call where specifically they say before the 911 operator interrupted that there was somebody here last night. I think they even say in dark clothing. We've gone over those transcripts, but and then the fear and panic, the voice, oh my gosh. So there's a lot to corroborate sort of how she was feeling and why she did what she did. This was a party house and these were party girls. And so I don't think it was the first time she'll be able to testify to this, but that maybe somebody had a little too much to drink and passed out on the ground. I think that is something that makes a lot of sense depending on, the circle you're in and the time frame you're in. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Dylan Mortensen. The prosecution needs to let her have her cathartic moment on the stand, because I can't imagine how this is all going to come together for her. She knows she's going to be on television. This is, like you said, the worst trauma almost anybody could suffer, realizing how close you were to likely being murdered and recounting all of this. I think if she comes off as emotional and that this is a cathartic moment for her to tell her truth, I think it will go a long way, because you better be careful, defense, if you go after this young girl, assuming she's well-spoken and has it together and is emotional during direct examination.
That DoorDash driver, obviously another thing, initials MM. We've now seen her talking to someone at the police station after that. She was pulled over. It was operating while intoxicated, but it was not alcohol. It was prescription medication that she was supposed to be taking. But my God, a woman who has gone through a lot. I mean, it's almost like this is one of the most unlucky people I think I've ever heard of, with the tragedy and the trauma that she's seen with her boyfriend, I think it was husband, being shot in front of her recently before this. And now she so unluckily is the DoorDash driver in the Bryan Kohberger case. I get why she's a little effed up at times and why she seemed the way she did. I don't think it disqualifies her from testifying at all. I guess the big question that we have to ask right now is, did she tell the police in her initial interview that she saw Kohberger and his car outside the house that night? Because I think a lot of jumping on this is that she didn't say that. But do we even know that? That could very likely still be sealed testimony that we just do not know the answer to yet. Let's start with that. Is that correct? Do we just not know the answer to that question?
That's a fact.
Okay.
We haven't seen her FD 302, which is really actually Jenks material for that FBI agent who wrote it. It's not a statement unless they write out a statement. It's not theirs. It's that officer's statement. So let's start with that. But if this was recorded, or if they had her hand write a statement, we haven't seen any of that. So for people to be prejudging what she did and didn't say, all I know is she absolutely said twice now, I've seen it once in the booking room and once in a vehicle, that she feels so bad, I think, because she doesn't want to be discredited, because she knows she's an important witness in the Bryan Kohberger case, the case against him. And, I really feel for this woman from the standpoint of her understanding the gravity of what her information is. And that makes me think she did give that specificity early on. But again, did she say she saw bushy eyebrows? Did she just generally describe him? Does she say after she saw a photo, she knew that was Bryan Kohberger? Was she able to identify him in a photo array? We just really don't know those details. And for online people to speculate that she's a terrible witness and never said something and now is going to say something, I think is just outfield. Not correct to do. Yeah,
I mean, now that I think the understanding is that we just don't know. We do not know what she said. And what I've been doing in my mind is like kind of taking it both roads. Like, okay, so if she did say it, everything's good, because then that's on record. It's going to come out, and then it pretty much negates her issues where she was under the influence of something, and in that video that we all saw. If she said this early on, it's there. It's on record. If she didn't say it early on and it's on record, that does pose a problem, though. If suddenly this is something she's just saying later, for whatever reason that may be, that could be a difficult thing in front of a jury if this is after the fact. Would it not be?
Well, a difficult thing. So, could it be a difficult thing? Yes, to a degree. But again, it depends on if that police officer wrote a statement or if she gave a statement. So, Tony, let's go with she was interviewed by the FBI, and the FBI wrote an FD 302 to document what she said. And if in that FD 302 it doesn't specifically state that she said it was Bryan Kohberger, that's their statement. So she could say, I failed to mention it. I didn't realize until I saw pictures of him actually in the car later that was him. That's how he looked in there. There could be a lot of different, things she could say. But I agree with you that the credibility in a juror's eyes may start to wane if her story changed.
But they would have had to have asked her, would they have not? Did you see anybody at that scene? Did you see anyone near, in a car, anywhere? I mean, I can't imagine that wouldn't have been a question that was posed to her at that moment in time.
No, I agree, Tony. It would have been posed to her, but you can imagine how early on this is. This is the next morning. Yeah. So the gravity certainly was known that there were 4 deceased individuals, but nobody knew the name Bryan Kohberger. No. Nobody knew what he looked like when she was originally interviewed. Nobody knew anything. So really, they were looking to jumpstart their investigation as to what car she might have seen, really, from this DoorDash driver and Dylan and Bethany. Those were their kind of starting points. So could she have said something like, yeah, I saw a white car, maybe not even able to describe it in detail. Sure. Yeah, there was a guy in there. I only saw one in there. So I could see her initial statements being really skeletal. And then later, when he was identified, perhaps being shown in a photo array or trying to compare with her original description. I mean, if she looked over at the car and said she saw a girl in there, that could be a problem, right, Tony?
Yeah.
But if she gave a scant description that loosely follows or is Kohberger, I think she could be a really good witness.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she could. It's just all going to depend on what was said. And I've heard other DoorDash drivers weigh in on this over the last, several years now. And it's funny, I hear a mix of their perceptions, because I think it is kind of a personal thing. You have some DoorDash drivers that are saying, look, when we go and deliver something, we are looking around our car, we're looking around the property we're going to, because we want to make sure we're safe. Cool. I know that's probably the way one should be if you're delivering DoorDash to random homes you don't know about. And I've heard others going, look, we just get out of the car real quick, we drop it off, we get out of there, we try to get another delivery. We're not paying attention to anything. So it's very much, I think, probably a personal mindset of what one would be, or how one would be approaching the situation if you're a DoorDash driver.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing we also don't know, many DoorDash drivers, did I say that right?
Yes.
They take a picture of the food, the food that they place. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's going to be critical too. Did she take a photo? Mm-hmm. And that's going to give us a great timeline if indeed she says, okay, I dropped it, I turned around and a white car pulled up. Yeah. Or I dropped it and was leaving and I passed a white car. All of that, I mean, if she took a photo, and we don't know. Yeah. But they often do, Tony.
They do. I'm just wondering, was it standard practice at that time? Because we're talking 3 years ago, too. And I'm trying to wonder in my mind when that became standard practice. Because I want to say that was within the last 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, look, my son was a DoorDash driver in college for large parts. So obviously I've talked to him about this.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you're a guy, it's, I think, a little bit of a different perspective. It's certainly dependent on the time of day and exactly the neighborhood you were dropping at. But I could tell you he was snapping those photos, and that would have been, back in about right around this time frame, 2021, 22-ish.
22, yeah.
No, I know Idaho was 22, but he was doing it in 21, 22.
Well, if he was snapping in 21, then I guess they were snapping by that time. So, I mean, that will be an interesting point to this, to see wouldn't that be fascinating if the DoorDash shot of the food somehow catches something. Somehow the Jack in the Box is the thing that wins the day. We're obviously getting very close to the trial starting here. We're literally at this point now weeks away from the jury selection beginning. Obviously, the defense had wanted to stay. The judge denied that motion, saying we are going forward here. Jury selection starting August 4th. Obviously, in the interest of not having any sort of appellate issues, The judge seems to be pretty straightforward and confident that we're good on this. Do you think both sides have had enough time to prepare, and should they be going on August 4th?
Well, the first go around, I said there is no way.
Yep.
And this go around, I've said, wow, very surprised. I was waiting for his actual written response because he's been saying throughout these court, proceedings that you guys better be ready. He's been intimating that we're going to go. And sure enough, he's going to go. I still remain a bit surprised. I thought there would be one more continuance. Not that I want one more continuance. I love the backbone of this judge.
Yeah.
This judge saying, listen, this has been almost 3 years. Let's get justice for these kids. This has just gone on too long. You've had every delay that is imaginable, and we're going to move forward. But I really thought she would get one more just toward, maybe the end of the year, a few months delay. But we're starting now. It's actually kind of shortened, right? We have jury selection now on the 4th of August, trial starting the 18th. But believe me, when you say the 4th, now it's ramped up ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have it on the 11th. That's what I consider when I hear trial starting. It starts with Verdier. And wow, we're starting early. They've got so much to do to prepare for that. Any good attorney and any FBI agent will tell you the trial is decided on when you choose that jury.
Sure.
That's the most important stage of any trial.
They're saying that this could go all the way into mid to late November, with starting in August. I'm curious about that. August, September, October, it's 4 months. Do you think we're going to see it go that long, considering the defense doesn't have a lot, honest? I mean, obviously they got some stuff they're going to try and bring. Like you said, they have some things up their sleeves, but I don't know. It feels like that's a long chunk of time for, I don't know, they feel like the prosecution can get through their stuff in a handful of weeks. Is it going to go all the way to November? Or is this going to be a shorter one than you think?
I think it's going to be long, Tony, and a lot of that is based on Ann Taylor herself. I see her processes. I can only imagine how elongated these cross-examinations are going to be. I see motions coming up in the middle of trial. I see a lot of things that are going to make this trial really, really long. I also think that the prosecution is going to want to put on everyone to prove their case. They're not going to want to hold any witnesses back. They need to put on everything. And the defense is going to have some good defense rebuttal witnesses, I believe. So I think it will go long.
It's going to be fascinating. I think if I got to go back and look at the tape, but this would have been 3 years ago when I asked you, when do you think this is going to happen? And I believe you said 2025, like right after everything went down. And so I think you win the free $5 Applebee's gift card that we give away when you enjoy half an order of buffalo wings.
Well, thank you, Tony. Yep, this $5 gift card will get you. They can't even buy a greeting card anymore.
No.
Greeting cards are $10, Tony.
Next time it's Shoney's, so just don't get too excited. But it's going to be great.
Oh, that's great.
Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent. As always, thank you so much for your insight on this case. As here we go, we're ramping up. It's about to get started.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.